To our brothers and sisters in the American Southeast dealing with the effects of Hurricanes Helene and Hurricane Milton, and to those in the Bighorn Mountains of Wyoming, we are here for you. We are praying for you. Help is on the way. We are also praying for our friends in Mexico who are dealing with the effects of Hurricane John in the Acapulco area. The Scene Projects are brought to you by these fine sponsors. List with Linda B. Cufflinks.com. J.H. & Sons Menswear. Kathmandu Campground and RV Park in Sturgis, South Dakota. The Den. Sioux Falls' newest live music venue at 909 Northwest Avenue in Sioux Falls. Sunny Radio and SiouxFallsPodcast.com. Welcome in another exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Starts, and with me today is my good buddy, Brandon Manger. Mango, how you doing, brother? From Dakota Green, the Terp Ranch.
Doing good, man.
We're here at Trails Head Cannabis, hanging out here in Deadwood. I'm so glad you could join me today.
I'm glad I can, too. I barely ever get off the farms.
Yeah,
it's kind of a special Friday for me.
That's because it's busy out there, ain't it?
Busy season, man. Growing trees.
Yeah, oh goodness. I was out there yesterday hanging out with you guys and saw them. The girls are looking beautiful.
12-footers, bud.
Yeah, man. It's exciting. It's exciting stuff. It's hard not to get out there and just immediately start humming with the vibration of all the plants together. And yeah, it's great stuff, man. Well, before we get too down the road on what we're doing and what we got coming up, why don't you give us a little backstory on Dakota Green and the Terp Ranch?
So a little backstory, I guess, on the Terp Ranch. I mean, that's kind of been my big project. We are South Dakota's premier outdoor cannabis farm. We'd like to believe that we're beyond organic. We do everything we can to be sustainable, utilize the tools that Mother Nature and God gave us to let the genetics and flavor profiles speak for themselves.
Right, and you guys are all organic with your nutrients and everything on the farm, correct?
Yes, sir. All organic, living soil. We basically treat our soil like farmers would their fields. Lab analysis reports to find target nutrients to hit. We also run eco-certified carbon forward additives, which really help get those plants to grease out under the sunlight. We're one of the few organic farms left standing in the state due to the heavy metal analysis and stuff. We're the strictest in the nation alongside California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, and that really stopped a lot of people from the organic train. It's a hard thing. I describe it as a spider web, and each part of the web is another chapter in a book that you have to have dialed in if you're going to grow and produce clean organic cannabis.
Really? So what is the problem? You say there's the heavy metal, so we have the strictest detection system here in South Dakota that's enforced here.
The strictest thresholds.
So why is it more difficult when you're growing organic as opposed to like a hydroponic grow or something like that?
Like your salts, they're refined typically from petroleum-based chemicals, and that is all they're getting. Your nitrogen is ammonium nitrate. So they're entirely refined to where they can pull those sorts of things out versus an organic setting. I mean, arsenic, for example, is in everything. There's a difference between organic arsenic and inorganic arsenic, but we don't have the testing and the knowledge through the NIH, because cannabis is kind of a touchy subject. We can't identify what those compounds are as much as a different industry. So a lot of organic farming behind that. You obviously have to have clean source nutrients. Got to be extremely diligent on testing, and also understanding the soil food web and how you can keep your plants well fed with the right nutrients to keep the uptake from happening on the less than desirables.
Right. Now, does that change from plant to plant and strain to strain?
Yes, it does.
So it's constant testing on your end. You're constantly testing the soil and taking care of these plants from day one. It's not just to throw it in the ground and see you in 90 days.
Oh no, that's where we're. I always like to say, like, if you're going to be out on the ranch, I mean, you got to be a soil biologist, an entomologist. You got to have some knowledge in plumbing. I mean, you name it. You got to be good at a lot of different things just to be able to get to the starting point.
Well, and you got to be able to work hard. You know, you guys put in long hours out there, having, you know, seen the farm and seen the scope of it alone is just a massive scale, and the work that goes into it. And it really, I mean, you guys come together as a family. There's a lot more people than just you out there. Yes, you're permanent, but
the farm, and you've seen it, Bubba. If you're part of the Terp Ranch, you're part of the family.
Yep.
It's not just a job. We eat together, we work together. I like to say anybody that's on the Terp Ranch or works with us, I'll go to war with you and I'll starve with you. You know, and we eat together, we work together, we play together. I mean, it's a huge evolving organism in itself, just being part of the ranch. But yes, it's all family oriented.
Right, and not dissimilar from the plants themselves. You know, as the cannabis plant is ever evolving. It as a genetically, it is predisposed to change and evolve. It doesn't want to stay stagnant and remain the same. And it's really fun to have been watching this grow. Obviously, we've had the medical program for a few years now, and to watch, you know, the ranch go from a literal piece of South Dakota prairie to what it is now has been completely insane in some ways, but such a beautiful, beautiful story that we're telling and continue to tell. This fall, I would guess would be the biggest harvest that you guys are planning for yet.
We're on board for the biggest harvest yet. Last year, you know, I mean, we weren't even sure if we were going to be able to successfully grow an outdoor crop. So the ranch, we've been constantly, since the conception of it, we've been constantly knocking down those barriers of, is it possible? Is it possible to grow in a greenhouse 4 seasons through the winter in South Dakota? We checked that off the box, you know, 2 years ago.
Yeah, and middle of the blizzard, man. You're great content, and I will highly suggest anyone, if you're on Instagram, go find Brandon and
Brandon.Manger.
Yeah, there you go, Manger, and it's great stuff watching it work out there, middle of, you know, 3-4 feet of snow on the ground and coming inside to a perfectly climate controlled greenhouse, and no small feat to make that happen.
No, the motto of the ranch is, I'm not tired, I'm not sore, growing good weed is easy.
Of course, all three of those things not being true.
No sarcasm involved with that at all.
No, but that's what it takes, man. And really, what we're building with the podcast and our music business and everything, it's a lot of the same stuff, man. Most of the work that we do is behind the scenes. Nobody sees it. It's the underwater iceberg, and then you get to see the show. And for you, you get to see the product on the shelf. But
I get to see
you miss all the fun. Yeah,
you know, some of the best things I get, or I'll have somebody, a patient in the industry, might send me a message like, "Hey, this is awesome. Oh my God, the flavor behind this," or "Man, this really helped me." And like, that is what keeps us going when it gets hard.
Right.
You know? I mean,
well, and something that Nicole and I talked about, Nicole LaFrance, our friend here at Trails Head, was that, you know, it starts with relief. What relief are you looking for? Now, on the grower side, are you starting from what kind of relief is this going to provide for the patient? Or is it more coming from a flavor profile that you're trying to attain? Or kind of both worlds, and both things can be true at the same time?
Diversification is huge in your genetics. And we have a whole different list than most indoor counterparts, because we have obviously more weather and environmental variables. So it comes down to, you know, we try to keep a broad spectrum of sativa, indica, afghanica hybrids, so we can look for those different terps. I mean, with us being the Terp Ranch, I have a pheno hunting chart, and that's another thing that we do differently is we're ripping packs of seeds open. We're not buying clones from these clone mills across the nation. We're ripping seeds and we're finding directly what will work on the terpene profile.
Can we sit with that for a minute? Can you talk about why it's important to work from the seed genetics as opposed to just taking clones?
Diversification. We try to be leaders in our craft and what we do, and if we're growing the same plants as everybody else, we're not going to be able to stay a step ahead of the industry and the evolving plant. For instance, I have two sisters. One's 5'2", one's 5'4". They're maybe 100 pounds. I'm 6'1", I'm 240 pounds. Same parents, different expression.
Right.
And you see a lot of that through your seeds and your genetics, where if we weren't going through those seeds and running those plants out, there's special things in those genetic profiles. For instance, our Soul Doctor strain, it was a Sour Chem D, one pheno of it. 9% THC, 16.5% CBD. The breeder's never seen more than a couple points of CBD come out in this strain. Well, this is somewhere way back in the lineage.
Right.
But if we want to talk about relief and help for a lot of patients, I know a lot of older people that don't want to smoke these 30% strains. They're looking for back pain relief. They're looking for these things, and this one phenotype we found out of 20 is like that magic ticket of relief, but a well-balanced high. So if we weren't ripping through seeds,
you never get to that. So it could be one seed in a pack of 20 or 100 or 1,000, right? That has that expression, and that is what, to me, that's probably the coolest thing about, you know, cannabis in general is like, and I'm sure corn and all those things are the same way too, but like we look at plants as humans and like that plant, that's the same. It's a pot plant. They're all the same, and that's it, and not a further thing could be from the truth.
It makes it easy for these people that are in the industry for the green rush, these clone mills. Oh, okay, this strain's popular in this state. This is on top sales.
Right.
Now, do you want to be a leader or do you want to be a follower?
Right.
Us, we want to actively watch this plant evolve and be more active in that genetic selection process to find what works.
Yeah. Now, is the goal to eventually have people that want Terp Ranch genetics to grow for themselves? Is that something that's talked about? That seems a little further down the stream than where we're at right now. But
definitely further down the stream, but that's something that I would really like to get into. To run a successful breeding program, everybody can call themselves a breeder if they do an F1 hybrid, throw a little bit of pollen, and that's cool. You know, I don't talk down on that, but if we run a breeding program on the Terp Ranch, we're going to be getting into F3 to F5 generations before you see it released. So we have time to work those lines, check them for stability, really breed back the traits that we're looking for in the plants before you'll ever see any of that released in public.
Right, which is a huge investment, obviously, of time, of resources.
Yeah.
You would need a completely secure building right to its own, right? Because you're not trying to pollinate all the other
Not trying to pollinate everything else.
The whole farm, right? So
and just sticking to your overall goal, you know, because you can find new traits while you're working a line, and it's easy to get off task. So to run an effective breeding program, when you start, you say, okay, this is what I'm looking for. This is how we're going to get here. And you got to stick to your guns. Otherwise, you end up chasing squirrels. And by the end, it's not the same thing that
Yeah.
you're going for.
Yeah, exactly. And it just goes forever. I mean, you got job security. If that's the evolution, right? If that's your upward mobility, I know there's not really a boss at Dakota Green at the Terp Ranch, right? But, you know, to be able for you to teach people how to grow really good cannabis, right? So that you can organic cannabis, right? So that you can move into the breeding program and everything, and having the vision of that and the longevity of the Terp Ranch and Dakota Green as, you know, as the parent to that. And yeah, man, it's a really cool time for all of us right now, because it seems like things are hitting. We obviously have the vote coming up here in November. I am 29. I'll make sure you guys are all registering to vote. Make sure you get out and vote this November. If you're in South Dakota, vote yes on 29. And let's get access to everyone 21 plus. You know, there's no reason that we should be spending extra money on licensing and things like that when it's just not necessary. So we really encourage you all to get out, register to vote. You can come right here to Trails Head Cannabis. I'm sure the dispensaries that you guys have over there, is it, I get confused. I get all the colors in my head.
Redwater is in Belfouche, south side of Belfouche off Highway 85, and then we have Yellowstone in Fort Pierre.
Awesome. And I've been to Yellowstone, which is further away, but I haven't been to Redwater yet. So I need to get over there to Belfouche this trip and to stop in and see it. But yeah, you guys can find voter registration forms there. You can get educated on what I Am 29 is, you know, allowing access to everyone 21 plus. It's just an initiated measure, so it's kind of a generality, but it's telling our legislators that voters in South Dakota believe that it's a requirement. It should be everyone's fair access to medical cannabis and to cannabis in general.
Well, let's quit wasting money on incarcerating people for personal amounts of cannabis, and let's ensure that it's clean. From a grower's standpoint, I mean, we go through rigorous testing to ensure that our products that hit the shelves in the state are they're 100 times cleaner than the food that we're allowed to buy from the grocers.
Right, and Mango, look, I mean, both of us kind of outing ourselves. We're both medical patients now, but you know, we've been using cannabis for a long time. You know, before it had all of that. Would you say that it's the safest it's ever been to use cannabis in probably the history of the world?
If bought through the stores, yes.
Right.
Yep.
So it's about safe access. You're like, we don't want to be forced to go to the street and to purchase what the relief that we're looking for on the street, and to have this extra, it's a tax. That's what it is. Let's face it, right? It's an extra tax that the state gets just to tell you that you can use this. I don't think it's fair. I know you feel the same way, and a lot of us do. And I know the voters in South Dakota do, because we've kind of been down this road before. So make sure that you're getting out and voting this November and getting us safe and access to medical cannabis for everyone 21 plus here in South Dakota. Let's do it. Mango, what's next, buddy?
What's next? Man, we got a long 5 to 6 weeks of harvest. I think next week we're going to start processing some of our earlier strains, and it's just going to be nonstop until November. Right,
and it seems like everything's in stages this year, so you're not harvesting the whole ranch at one time. But
I thought long and hard on how we can stagger almost a full half-acre worth of canopy. You know, I mean, our whole facility is about 1.5 acres, but starting to think about the rows and number of rows and stuff, it's probably at least a half acre of actual cannabis canopy, and it's a hard thing on those harvest dates. I mean, you've seen the ranch. We don't have trees.
In weight, and I was in and kind of around one of the indoor grows when you were chopping it down, and I think, you know, maybe a quarter, a third, and that was about what we said, like 30 pounds.
Right.
And now those plants are pretty small compared to what we're seeing outside. I mean, what's the weight that we're talking about?
Those plants are pretty cute.
Yeah. You know, what kind of weight is one of these plants? You know, what's an average for one cannabis plant to grow in a season out in the greenhouse on the Terp Ranch?
You know, I would like to see the 5-pound number get hit this year off the docket. That will tell me that our nutrients are working and we got a good balance in the environment. I mean, it's harsh out there.
Yeah.
I mean, last year our plant's seen anywhere from 115 degrees to 26 before they were cut down outside.
That's crazy.
We're still hitting good THC levels. I mean, it's not as pretty looking as an indoor plant because it hasn't been babied its whole life, but when we're out there growing full sun outdoor organic cannabis and we're hitting indoor THC levels, and those plants are just greasy.
Right. Well, and can you speak to it now? Is there a difference? Now we know the science is there that shows us that human beings are affected by the sunlight, right? On a molecular DNA mitochondrial level.
Yep.
Are cannabis plants, you think, the same way? We'd have to think the same thing, that plants grown under natural sunlight. And
there's some collegiate studies that have actually been released over the last couple years proving that sun-grown cannabis produces more terpene production and also more microcannabinoids, not just the THC or the CBD, but all these other cannabinoids
that we know very little about because the research just hasn't been done.
And what they're finding is that all of these micros are coming out and being expressed more. So I think the sunlight provides more expression for that plant, and in return I think it makes it more of a well-rounded high. I get anxiety off of indoor. My preferred method of consumption would be a mixed light greenhouse or just straight outdoor. It's smooth, it's a connoisseur smoke, and I'm a full supporter of consuming cannabis as nature intended. I don't think it's too much to ask, and I'm glad that we have at least one farm in the state that's doing it.
Well, yeah, we do, and that's right there at the Terp Ranch, Dakota Green. You guys, you find them in every single dispensary across the state here in South Dakota. It's what I smoke. It's what I use. These guys.
It's what I believe in.
Yeah, it's what I believe in too, buddy. So I appreciate your time today and joining us, and I appreciate you letting me be part of the family, brother.
Yeah, thanks for getting me out here, bud.
Yeah. Well, for everybody else, don't forget to make yourself part of the scene. Groovy, dude.